So I'm gonna make a video now talking about the blending of love and wisdom together in order to be able to experience truth, the truth of existence, the truth of what it is that you are. So this is a topic that really it resonates with a book called The Law of One, and also with personal experience. It's basically what I'm gonna try to do is to show through my personal experience and through my words how I've come to realize first the similarities and differences between love and wisdom, because they're not, I mean, it's almost like they're polar opposites, but there's a blending that happens that kind of allows the two ends of the circle to touch each other so that it can make a full loop, a full round, so you say. I mean, it's basically it's the coming back together, it's like the bending of the line that is reality onto itself in order for it to know itself from beginning to end, but also to know that the beginning and the end were both the same thing the whole time, and the knowing of the self was just a process of exploration of the self rather than something that needed to be done per se. But this is I tangented a little bit, but point being though is that we're going to talk about the balancing of love and wisdom. Okay, so what love is what they call fourth density understanding. And right now, and I'll go into the densities as well. I know I haven't made many videos on the Law of One, but this is something that I've gone very deep into in my own consciousness. But point being though is that love is a fourth density type of understanding. And what fourth density means is fourth density is the realm of love and understanding, togetherness, unity, but not unity fully. It's the way that they describe it is that it's unity with martyrdom towards the self. So what that means is that it's so much love and compassion that the self will self-deprecate in order to be able to help another person. So what that means is that love in its essence by itself is almost dangerous to the self without wisdom in this reality, in this third density reality, in this kind of thing. And then so these things that I'm speaking of, this is the third density, but the third dimension. But there are other densities of consciousness that are overlaid inside and on top of this. So it's not really on top of, but it's more like one inside of another, inside of another, inside of another, if that makes any sense. So all of the densities are always there. It's just that we are only experiencing one portion of one of those densities right now in order to be able to have an experience, to have an extended experience. An interesting thing about the third density is that in the third density, the experience that you have feels as though it's extended outward for a long time. And what I mean by that is that you have the concept of time. You feel the concept of time. You experience the concept of time. And what that does is it makes you feel as though there's a sense of continuous motion, or a sense of doing that's being done. And what that means is that basically this is giving you an opportunity to be able to extend a very short amount of time into what feels like a long amount of time, so that you can go deeper into the lessons that are being presented in those moments. So the lessons that are presented are something akin to basically it's like purifying the consciousness so that it can experience itself without distortion. It's like it broke itself apart and wanted to experience what distortion was like in order to be able to know even those aspects of the self. But then it comes to a point where after the things have made the decisions of which way they want to polarize, they then have to come into an aspect of merging back together. And that's when wisdom starts to come about. And the love comes about when the self sees that it's a reflection of God, or it's a reflection of the divine. And what that means is that the love really only comes about when it recognizes that the self is everything. The self is literally everything that you experience. Like, it's like you're experiencing your own soul. So like what you see in the world is a reflection of your soul in some sort of way. And what that means is that the love comes about really when you see the love inside of your own self. And when that happens, then you recognize that the love inside of yourself is a reflection of the love of God, or the love of eternity, or the love of whatever you want to call it. So it's basically just a reflection of the love that already is inside of you. And the love that I'm speaking of is like, it's the life force, energy, prana that makes up existence, or makes existence possible. It makes existence something that is capable of being experienced. And so you start to experience that as your waking state or reality. And when that starts to happen, then you start to awaken to all these kind of different understandings and things, because you start to see other people as reflections of yourself. So instead of judging and having mental commentary about the things that other people are doing, or the thoughts that they're projecting, or any of that kind of stuff, like their experience is literally just a projection of your own consciousness. And when you see that, you become very compassionate towards other people, because you recognize yourself in different places. Like, you see that's you too, meaning like you've experienced that, you know, like that's something that you had to go through as well in order to be able to get to this point. You may not remember it through this veil of forgetting, through this veil of forgetfulness, which is, it happens when you take birth into the third density, in order for people to be able to polarize or make a free will decision without memories of their past decisions that they've made. It's like resetting a game in order to be able to make a new character in whatever way that you want it to, you know. But people get caught up so much in the game that they get stuck in a cycle of like perpetuating the same character, if that makes any sense. And they forget about the fact that they are not only the character inside of the game, but they are actually the entirety of the game itself. And what that means is that the game itself is conscious, and that consciousness is what is making you be able to experience, you know. So as self-consciousness, what that is, and going all the way back to the first density, the way that it goes is that the self-consciousness is acquired all the way back in the first density. It's just that it's not embodied until the third density. So what happens is that the first thing that happens is that there is Akash, and then from Akash comes air, water, fire, and earth. And then air, water, fire, and earth become conscious in some way. It's rudimentary consciousness. It's not something that is, it's not like a deep understanding of your own self-consciousness. It's just consciousness. That's all it is. So it's like the existence becomes aware that existence is a thing, right? And then when that happens, then development starts to happen in the human, or like, not in human, but like development starts to happen on the planet. And then the second density comes about. And the second density is basically entities or energies that are mechanical in their nature, meaning like they're programmed to do a specific thing, and then they do that thing and they fulfill that desire, that duty, and then they die. So it's like animal life, like they're meant to do their thing, and then they just do their thing, and then they go, right? And then you go to the third density, and that's when the animal life becomes self-conscious, meaning like the animals, like instead of being moved by reality, they move themselves. And what that means is that they become conscious of the fact that they have control over moving their environment and their body, and then they start to consciously act that control out. And when that happens, then the ego is born. The ego turns online. The ego is basically your sense of yourself. It's your sense of separation from your environment and your own selfness or entity in your own self. And when you start to experience that for the first time, what happens is that you feel this vast disconnection from your whole existence. And then from there comes the search, or the kind of desire to merge back with the Godhead, or the all, or the one. And so that desire comes about, and then that is what polarization is. Polarization is when the desire is pulled to one side or to the other side enough to where it has enough force to be able to be let go into another thing. So it's like if you don't polarize yourself either positively or negatively, what happens is that you have no force or action power. And what that means is that when you do stuff, you don't really see many changes happening, or if you do, then it takes a very long time for you to see them happening. And the more polarization or power that you have inside of yourself to be able to do things, and it's not just do things on the physical plane, but what I mean is it's like a spiritual polarization. So it's like, they call it spiritual gravity or spiritual, what it is it's like you accumulate the spiritual mass. And what the spiritual mass is like this, it's like this, it's either radiating power or it's sucking power, or it's absorbing power. And so the radiating power is the positive path, and the absorbing power is the negative path. And basically you choose what is resonant with you, what you think feels good for you, you know? So it's like, if you feel like manipulating and enslaving people is the right thing to do, then do that, you know, like that's what you do. And then if you feel as though helping and serving other people by serving, like, basically, and the weird thing is, like, the balancing of love and wisdom, where it comes in is that the serving of others is the serving of self, because others are just reflection of the self. So what that means is that service to self and service to others becomes one thing later on in this journey. But what happens is you have to make the choice now whether you want to polarize positively or negatively in order to get to that unity. The negative polarization will come with a lot of turmoil and stress and anxiety and pain and suffering. And the positive paths will come with a lot of joy and love and unity and togetherness. And it's just based on whatever you want to choose or to achieve. On the negative path, you can achieve a lot of wisdom really, really quickly, and a lot of power really, really quickly. In the positive path, you can achieve a lot of love and understanding very quickly, and a lot of just general, like, excitement for life and enjoyment of existence, and a loss of fear. So you experience a loss of fear, and it's like a loss of fear of death, but it's also a loss of fear in general, just altogether. And the reason is because the unity that you experience, you realize that even if you leave this illusion, that you're still going to be a part of the unity, and you're still going to be a part of the whole thing. And that comes with a lot of love. One of the things that perpetuates a negative polarization or separation polarization is the fact that they think that the illusion is real. They think that this is what it is, you know? And then through that, they feel like they need to make the best of the world in whatever way that they can. And the way that they think that they do it is by moving, manipulating, and exploiting things in order to be able to serve the self in the best way, because they think of themselves. And this is just true negative polarization. So it's like you have people who are in the middle as well. And there are people who are not polarized. And what that means is that they may, like, in order to have true negative polarization, you have to have 95% or more service to self. And then true positive polarization starts at 51% service to others, and 49% service to self. So, and the reason why I'm bringing up the negative more is because it's like, I'm on the positive path, but it's very interesting for me to learn about the negative in order for me to be able to understand and not protect per se, but to be wise to whatever those exploitation and manipulation tactics are. I also have memories of, like, understanding all this stuff very, very deeply, and I can articulate it at all. A lot of this stuff, like, a lot of people wouldn't say it, especially if they were like actually, like, negatively polarized. Like, and the reason is because they would be very careful to who they let their information out to, you know what I mean? Like, a lot of the stuff that, like, exploitation and manipulation tactics, they wouldn't tell other people about, because they would want to be able to use them against them, you know? For me, I just want everybody to know everything that I know. Literally anything that I have inside of my mind is open and available for everybody else. And I just want you guys to be able to be wise to what's happening in the self and outside of the self, and to also have a genuine love and compassion for that kind of experience. Like, it's like, it comes with, like, the blending of love and wisdom comes with this literal love for existence itself. And that means everything in existence, not just good, you know? Like, it's also the bad, or what you would consider the bad. But then when this unity is achieved, or this kind of, like, spiritual vision is achieved, what happens is that the self experiences a loss of like not a loss of polarization, but it experiences an indifference that starts to happen. Like the good and the bad and the ugly and the beautiful and like all this stuff is it all starts to kind of meld together. Meaning like you start to have those experiences that the ego thought was bad before, but then when you start to experience those now, like you see it from a perspective that you realize that that is actually grace, that suffering that you were experiencing is actually grace. And as soon as you see that, then the suffering just becomes beautiful to you. It becomes graceful, even if it's the same suffering that was causing you a lot of pain and torment before. And the reason why that is just because of the fact that suffering is only a pointer. It's only something that's meant to push you further and quicker towards unity and towards the realization of God consciousness, you know? So all this stuff is literally just like so many different methods to be able to get to a point of understanding that you are eternal and infinite, and that you have the amount of power that you give to yourself, you know? Like, and also recognize that it's important to serve the self in order to be able to serve others. Meaning like the first thing that you need to do is not to be going outwards trying to serve as many people. You need to go inwards, fix the self, meaning like find the things that you see inside of yourself that you wouldn't want to see in another person. Start to embody the energy that you would love to see in another person. And then through that embodiment of that energy, then you will have the love inside of yourself that you can use to give to other people. But if you never do that self-inquiry, you never go inside of the self, and you never find all these different things that need to be tweaked or fixed or any of that kind of stuff, and you never work on it, then you're kind of stuck to a perpetual basically you're stuck to the opinions of other people, if that makes any sense. So what you need to do is you need to go inside of the self, start to love the self, start to learn to love the self in different ways, start to learn to love the self with like healthy eating and like healthy habits like exercise, and quitting all these like negative kind of like energy draining habits, and like replacing them with positive things that are giving you energy, and just slowly kind of implementing this stuff over and over and over again. It seems slow at the first, but like then after like 6 or 7 months, you realize that you've gained so much in spiritual mass that it makes it completely worth it. You know, it's like, it's not even like it's bad. Like it's like the slow process is so beautiful in its own self, because that like if it all happened at one time, then it would be kind of like I mean, honestly, it would be kind of like the way that people like achieve, like search for sexual like gratification, you know? That's another thing, is like you can start to realize that everything's reflected in different ways, right? So if you're always searching for that kind of peak moment, then you're always going to be missing the peak that is here all the time. Like your peak is going to keep lowering and lowering and lowering and lowering until your peak is literally not even as good as like the lowest point of somebody who has taken that energy and learned how to use it. And I know this is kind of going in many different directions, but this is all literally just about balancing love and wisdom. It's just there's a lot of stuff that you need to kind of understand beforehand in order to be able to kind of get this, or like be able to implement it in a way that will actually benefit you. But just recognize that like it's not selfish to serve the self. And what I mean by that is like, I know that sounds weird, but what I mean is that like to keep yourself healthy and to give yourself the amount like until I didn't realize this until I started doing it for myself, but like now I have so much energy that I can serve hundreds of people without a loss of energy in myself. Before, if I were to try to do that, literally after 1 or 2 people, I would have been drained. You see what I mean? So it's like you have so much more capacity for service if you're able to cleanse yourself to a point where you're able to retain large amounts of energy, and then you can give larger and larger amounts of energy outward. You see what I mean? But like until you're able to retain those energies for yourself, and to even know that that's possible, and to know that there's something that you can tap into that's beyond the self, until you're able to tap into that, you need to focus on the self and learning how to tap into that source, and learning how to contact intelligent infinity and how to experience the energy of intelligent energy. And then once you start to experience it, then you can start to give that kind of information, that experience to other people through just embodying what you are, you know. And then through your embodiment, then the other people will start to see the changes that they wish to see in themselves happening in you, and then they'll come to you and they'll ask you what it is that you did, and then you can give them a complete service at that point, because you know exactly how to do it because you've done it for yourself. You see what I mean? So it becomes effortless and easy because it's not something that is needed to be forced by the self. Okay. Let's start walking back, but yeah, I mean, like, this stuff. Oh goodness, almost. Oops, I almost left my labradorite. It's just the labradorite. But the point being, though, is that the balancing of love and wisdom is something that it happens naturally. It happens like automatically almost, but it just comes with a consciousness. You become more and more conscious of what it is that you're doing in the moment, and like what's happening in the moment, and like why are you thinking this, or like why are you reacting to this, or it's like why is this craving coming about, or like why is this like desire presenting itself to me. And if you really are honest about it, then you'll realize that a lot of that stuff is because of a perpetuation of a mind activity that tells you that you're uncomfortable in the situation, or that something is not going in the way that it needs to, and then an unconscious desire to manipulate or control the environment around you in order to be able to make it more comfortable for yourself. So another thing that you can do in order to be able to expand your wisdom is to expand your comfort zone. Realize that you can experience love literally anywhere, everywhere, anytime, all the time. And the reason is, like, all you do is let go of the need to achieve love from something external from you. Realize that every time that you've experienced love from something external from you, it happened inside of you. It didn't happen outside of you. It happened because you decided to allow yourself to feel that love. You see what I mean? And then from that, it's almost like a much wiser perspective on love, because then you realize that you're creating the love for yourself. So you never go out and search for it anymore. And then since you're not searching for it, and instead of being a seeker, you become a finder. And then once you found, then basically it's obvious. You know what I mean? Once you've tapped into that love, it's very obvious, and like other people will see it. It will naturally reveal itself and start to kind of like beautify itself, you know, because that's what love does, is it literally just becomes more and more radiant and beautiful. So you just find these kind of places inside of yourself, start to tap into these things, and as you start to experience love flowing through you in different ways, allow yourself to keep that experience and allow yourself not to question it so much. If you start to feel really good, then thank yourself for allowing yourself to feel really good, instead of wondering when it's going to go away, or like fearing it going away and then having it literally go away like a couple seconds after that, because of the fact that you feared that it was going to go away. But if you had faith in the fact that that feeling is not fleeting, that feeling is just something that your attention is put on. It's a space in your consciousness that you're holding. It's a space inside of yourself that you're holding. Then you can then learn to redirect your attention into that space inside of yourself, and then embody more and more that spaciousness and that heart loving kind of energy inside of yourself. And then that will become more and more of what your native frequency is. And then from there, it's much easier to achieve or look for the wisdom in the things, because of the fact that you're not so subject to your external world. You're very stable and secure inside of yourself. So then you're able to go outward more kind of like you're able to take more risk with the things that you do, because you have faith that it's going to work out in your favor. And that comes just from positivity and developing happiness inside of yourself, you know, and not only just happiness, but just even contentment, okayness, you know. But I'll go much deeper into this stuff. This is a little bit of a longer one, but I have so much to talk about this. This is literally barely even scratching the surface. So I want to go more into the balancing of love and wisdom, more based on the law of one, but this is literally just kind of like an intro to give you like a baseline of like what this stuff is even about in the first place. So I wish I could have gone a little bit deeper, but it's okay. I'll do more soon. So I hope you all have a wonderful day, and God bless you. Thank you.